Welcome to the Explainer. Okay, today we're jumping right into a pretty fascinating investigative journey, and we are looking straight at the packaging industry. Now, we all hear a ton of sustainability buzzwords thrown around out there, right? But today, we're skipping the marketing fluff. We're looking exclusively at the hard data to see how massive companies actually prove their packaging is sustainable. We're going to break down the highly structured metrics that separate the real deal from the greenwashing.
So let me start by asking you a question. Have you ever really wondered where your cardboard box actually comes from? And I don't just mean the warehouse it's shipped from. I mean the actual physical forest where the wood was harvested. See, in today's global economy, untracked supply chains are a massive problem. Without incredibly clear tracking, we run the real risk of falling for greenwashing, which is essentially when a company just slaps an eco-friendly sticker on a box without any actual proof to back it up. So how do investors and informed consumers know what's real? How do we actually verify the origins of these materials?
Well, let's dive into this. Part 1. The packaging supply chain, following the data.
To solve that greenwashing problem, we basically have to follow the data right back to the source. And to do that, we use the SASB standards, which are now part of the International Sustainability Standards. We are absolutely not talking about vague corporate promises here. We're talking about strict, standardized accounting metrics used to report real performance to investors. You can think of this as the financial world's way of demanding the receipts for any environmental claims.
Now, to understand how these metrics actually work, we rely on one absolute foundational concept, and that is the chain of custody. This is an auditable trail that tracks raw materials from their original extraction point all the way to the final manufactured packaging product. It's honestly a lot like a giant relay race. Imagine the raw material is a runner and the baton is the official certification paperwork. That baton has to be passed securely and documented at every single stage. So from the forest or the mine, to the processor, to the manufacturer, and finally to us, the consumer. If that baton gets dropped at any point, the chain is broken and the material can no longer be claimed as sustainably certified.
Moving right along to Section 2, tracking sustainable wood fiber, specifically metric RT-CP 430AU.1.
This specific metric investigates the entire scope of a company's wood fiber procurement. So everything from recycled materials all the way to virgin goods. And the core math behind this is surprisingly straightforward. The SASB standard just requires companies to report a percentage. You take the total metric tons of certified wood fiber and you divide it by the total metric tons of all wood fiber procured. That's it. It leaves you with an undeniable percentage that tells investors exactly how much of a company's packaging material is actually sustainably sourced. But you might be asking, what exactly counts as certified?
Well, that brings us to the certifying bodies themselves. These 4 major third-party standards are absolutely crucial. We have the American Tree Farm System, the Forest Stewardship Council, the Program for the Endorsement of Forest Certification, and the Sustainable Forest Initiative. These independent organizations, they're essentially the referees of our relay race. They provide those crucial receipts I mentioned earlier to guarantee that absolutely no foul play occurred in the forest. They're making sure things like responsible forestry management and the protection of local ecosystems are actually happening.
And the tracking here gets incredibly granular. The standard doesn't just broadly ask if a company used FSC or SFI. It specifies the exact labels that count, like FSC's 100%, mixed sources, and recycle labels. And here is a super strict, totally vital SASB rule you have to know. If a single batch of wood happens to be certified by more than one of these standards, a company can only count it exactly one time. No double dipping allowed. Period. This entirely prevents companies from artificially padding their sustainability numbers to look better on paper than they really are.
All right, let's look at Section 3, Certifying Sustainable Aluminum, metric RT-CP-430A.2.
So, transitioning from your everyday cardboard boxes to aluminum cans, we actually follow a very similar step-by-step mathematical journey here. Step 1. The entity purchases their aluminum raw materials. And yes, this includes all virgin or recycled inputs. Step 2. This sourcing must be strictly audited by recognized third-party standards. And finally, Step 3, just like with the wood fiber, the certified weight is divided by the total purchased weight to give us that hard auditable percentage on the balance sheet.
Now, for aluminum, the primary baton passer in our relay race is the Aluminum Stewardship Initiative, or ASI. The SASB standard specifically points to the ASI performance standard and their chain of custody standard, or an equivalent standard, of course, to verify that the aluminum was extracted and processed responsibly.
And hey, there's that magic number 1 again. This represents a huge recurring theme in sustainability accounting. Just like with wood fiber, if a batch of aluminum is certified to more than one standard, it can only be counted exactly one time. Extreme accuracy and complete transparency are the entire point of this exercise.
Which brings us to our final section, Section 4, why these metrics matter, protecting the bottom line and the planet.
So why do investors actually care so much about these highly technical metrics? Well, because failing to track the chain of custody carries massive operational and financial risks. By properly securing these specific certifications, a company mitigates adverse environmental impacts, which in turn directly protects them against sudden material cost increases driven by resource scarcity. Furthermore, it completely shields their brand value. Let's be real, in today's market, consumers are smart, and getting caught greenwashing is a total public relations nightmare. Proper certification ensures a company meets rising customer demand safely and transparently.
Actually, the SASB standard documentation itself sums this up perfectly. It states, such actions may raise brand value and meet customer demand for sustainably produced packaging products, providing access to new markets and growth opportunities. I love that quote because it proves that moving past greenwashing and adopting strict, auditable metrics isn't just some regulatory chore. It literally gives companies a distinct, measurable competitive advantage in the global market.
We have covered a lot of ground today in this explainer, from the chain of custody relay race all the way to the very specific SASB metrics for wood and aluminum. So, I want to leave you with this final thought. The next time you hold a cardboard box or an aluminum can, will you stop and ask who passed the baton to get it here? Because knowing that these standards exist empowers all of us, whether you're an everyday consumer or a major institutional investor, to demand the receipts and question the true origins of the products we interact with every single day. Thanks for joining me, and keep asking the right questions.